The text came while I was calibrating a protein synthesis array in my lab. My phone buzzed on the counter and I glanced at it between readings. Sophia's baby shower, executive edition. Read the subject line of my sister's message. Below, in typical Sophia fashion, was a detailed explanation of why I shouldn't attend. Mira, I need to be honest with you. This baby shower is important for my career. My boss is coming, her boss is coming, half the C-suite from Nexus Financial will be there. These are serious people. VPs, directors, managing partners. I can't have you there talking about working retail at the mall. It would reflect poorly on me. Please understand, this isn't personal. It's professional. Maybe we can do lunch after the baby comes? I stared at the message for a long moment, then returned to my calibration. The array's readings were off by 0.003%. Insignificant to most, potentially catastrophic in my work. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sophia. I know you're hurt, but think about it from my perspective. I've worked so hard to get where I am. Having my sister there in her mall uniform or whatever would undermine everything I've built. You get that, right? I replied simply, understood. Congratulations on the baby. Her response was immediate. Thanks for being mature about this. Love you. I set the phone down and looked around my laboratory. 20,000 square feet of cutting-edge biotech equipment. 14 researchers currently working on projects that would revolutionize drug development. $127 million in venture capital funding. And my sister thought I worked retail at the mall. My name is Mira Chin. I'm 31 years old. And for the past 7 years, my family has believed I work at a cosmetics store in the King of Prussia Mall. The truth is considerably different. I have a PhD in biochemical engineering from MIT. I founded Biosynth Solutions when I was 24. A biotech startup focused on synthetic protein design for targeted drug delivery. We just closed our Series C funding round at a $890 million valuation. Last month, the FDA fast-tracked 2 of our drug candidates. 3 weeks ago, Fortune magazine called to tell me I'd been selected as their Tech Innovator of the Year. The cover shoot was scheduled for this Saturday. The same Saturday as Sophia's baby shower. But my family didn't know any of this. They thought I was Mira who works at Sephora, or sometimes Mira who does something with makeup. They'd thought this for 7 years and I'd never corrected them. Why? Because at 24, fresh out of my PhD, I'd made the mistake of trying to explain my research at a family dinner. So you're going to cure cancer? My father had asked, trying to simplify. Not exactly. I'm working on synthetic protein structures that can deliver targeted therapeutics more effectively. So yes, cancer, Sophia had interrupted. Myra's going to cure cancer, everyone. Her tone made it clear she thought I was being pretentious. It's more complicated than that. Everything's complicated with you, Mom had sighed. Why can't you just say things simply? Sophia works in finance. Easy to understand. You work in, what? Proteins? What does that even mean? I'm starting a company to develop. A startup, Dad had groaned. Mira, those fail 90% of the time. Why didn't you just get a normal job? Something stable? This is my job. Playing scientist in some garage somewhere, Sophia had said, rolling her eyes. Very practical. I'd stopped trying to explain after that. A few months later, I'd needed extra income while waiting for our first funding round to close. I'd picked up a weekend job at Sephora, thinking I'd work there for maybe 2 months. It was oddly relaxing, helping people with makeup, no complex explanations needed. I mentioned it once at family dinner and their relief was palpable. Finally, a real job. Mom had exclaimed. Retail is honest work, Dad had agreed. Better than chasing some pipe dream. How much do they pay you? Sophia had asked. When I told her $16 an hour plus commission, she'd nodded approvingly. Well, it's a start. Maybe you can work your way up to manager. I'd quit Sephora after 6 weeks once our funding came through. But I never corrected my family's assumption. As something fascinating happened, they finally approved of me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the too smart daughter, the overachiever who made people uncomfortable with complex explanations. I was just Mira who worked retail. Mira who was finally being realistic. Mira who had given up her pretentious dreams for honest work. And they loved that version of me. Sophia, meanwhile, had built her identity around being the successful sister. MBA from Wharton, fast-tracked at Nexus Financial, now a senior director at 33. She made $340,000 a year, drove a BMW, lived in a luxury apartment in Center City, Philadelphia. She was the daughter who'd done everything right. At family gatherings, the contrast was always clear. Sophia would talk about her latest deal, her promotion prospects, her networking dinners with executives. Then someone would politely ask what I was up to, and I'd say something vague about work at the store before Sophia changed the subject. "Myra's happy doing her thing," she'd say with patronizing kindness. "Not everyone needs to be a career person." Last Thanksgiving, Sophia had announced her pregnancy. The whole family celebrated. This would be the first grandchild, and of course Sophia's baby would be raised with every advantage. Her husband Derek was a corporate attorney making $280,000 a year. Their baby would want for nothing. "What about you, Mira?" Aunt Linda had asked. "Any prospects? Or are you focused on your career?" The way she said career in air quotes was telling. "Just focused on work right now," I'd replied. "Good for you," Mom had said. "Not everyone needs to get married and have kids. Someone has to work at the mall." The condescension was breathtaking. But I'd smiled and changed the subject. Because by then Biosynth Solutions had 67 employees. Our research had produced 3 patent-pending drug delivery mechanisms. We'd partnered with 2 major pharmaceutical companies. And I was being courted by venture capital firms across the country. But to my family I was just Mira the retail worker. My research partner and CTO David Park knocked on my lab door. "Mira, the Fortune photographer confirmed for Saturday at 2 p.m. They want to do the shoot here in the main lab, get some shots with the synthesis arrays and the research team." "Saturday works. Isn't that your sister's baby shower?" "I wasn't invited." David's eyebrows shot up. "What?" She said, "It's C-suite executives only. My retail job would be humiliating." He stared at me. "Your retail job? The one you quit 7 years ago?" "She doesn't know I quit." "Mira, how is this still going on? You're about to be on the cover of Fortune magazine. You can't hide a company valued at almost $1 billion forever." "I'm not hiding it. I'm just not advertising it. To your own family. They're not interested in what I actually do. They're only comfortable with the version of me they invented." David shook his head. "This is going to explode in their faces." "Probably. And you're okay with that?" "I've spent 7 years watching them prefer Mira the retail worker to Mira the scientist because she made them more comfortable. I've watched Sophia build her entire identity around being the successful sister. I've listened to my parents apologize to their friends about my retail phase, like it's something I'll eventually grow out of. I adjusted the array's final settings. So yes, David. I'm okay with it exploding. The Fortune issue drops Monday. 3 days after your sister's shower. I'm aware. Everyone she works with will see it. Everyone at that baby shower will see it." "Yes. You're going to let them find out from a magazine cover." "I'm not letting anything happen. Fortune is publishing their annual Innovator issue. I was selected. That's not something I can control or hide." He studied me carefully. "You've been waiting for this. I've been building my company. If my family discovers what I've built, that's incidental." "Incidental. Right." He smiled. "The photographer is bringing a journalist too. They want to do a feature story to run alongside the cover. The scientist they underestimated, or something." I didn't pitch that angle. "You didn't have to. The journalist did her research. She found out you have a PhD from MIT, started this company at 24, raised nearly $130 million in funding, and your family thinks you work retail. She thinks it's the most fascinating part of your story." "It's not the most fascinating part. The science is the most fascinating part." "Agreed. But the human element sells magazines." That Saturday morning I woke early and drove to the lab. The Fortune team would arrive at 2 p.m. Sophia's baby shower started at noon. I wondered if anyone would notice the timing. My phone buzzed around 11 a.m. A text from Mom. "Are you working today? Sophia's shower is starting soon. Wish you could be here, but we understand you have to work retail on weekends." I replied, "Have fun. Tell Sophia I'm thinking of her." Another text from Sophia. "Thanks for understanding about the guest list. These are important connections for me. You know how it is. Well, maybe you don't, but trust me, it matters. I didn't reply to that one. At 1:45 p.m. the Fortune magazine team arrived. 3 photographers, 2 assistants, a journalist named Rebecca Walsh and an editor overseeing the shoot. Rebecca shook my hand warmly. Dr. Chen, thank you for making time. We're so excited about this feature. Please call me Mira. Mira then. I've been researching your work all week. What you're doing with synthetic proteins, it's revolutionary. The potential applications in cancer treatment, autoimmune diseases, gene therapy. She shook her head in amazement. And you're only 31. I have a good team. That's exactly what every innovative leader says. Mira, can I ask you something? When did your family last visit the lab? They've never been here. Never? In 7 years. They don't know about the lab. Rebecca's eyes widened. Right. Because they think you work retail. Can you walk me through how that happened? So I did. I explained the family dinner where I'd tried to share my work. Their dismissal. Their relief when I mentioned the Sephora job. Their continued assumption years after I'd quit. And you never corrected them, Rebecca said, taking notes. I tried at first. They weren't interested. Eventually I stopped trying. That must have been painful. It was educational. I learned that some people are more comfortable with a palatable lie than an uncomfortable truth. Your sister is having a baby shower right now, isn't she? Yes. And she didn't invite you because my retail job would embarrass her in front of her executive colleagues. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Mira, do you realize how incredible this story is? Not just the science, though that's remarkable, but this human element. The sister who was underestimated, who let her family believe a comfortable fiction while she built something extraordinary. The science is what matters. The science is why you're on our cover. But this story, this is why people will read the feature and remember you. The photo shoot took 3 hours. They photographed me in front of the synthesis arrays with my research team holding one of our proprietary drug delivery prototypes. The photographer wanted shots that showed both the cutting-edge science and the person behind it. Mira, can you tell me about this moment? The photographer asked, reviewing his camera screen. Your sister is at her baby shower right now with executives, celebrating her success. And you're here being photographed for the cover of Fortune magazine. What does that feel like? It feels like Saturday, I said honestly. He laughed. Fair enough. But there's going to be a moment, probably Monday when the issue drops, where your sister and everyone at that baby shower realizes who you actually are. Have you thought about that moment? Not really. You're remarkably calm about this. Because it's not about them. This achievement, I gestured around the lab. This isn't something I built to prove them wrong. I built it because the science matters. Because people are dying from diseases we can't effectively treat, and I thought I could help solve that problem. But they're going to feel pretty foolish when they realize they dismissed a Tech Innovator of the Year as a retail worker. That's their problem, not mine. Rebecca was watching me carefully. Mira, I have to ask, do you resent them? I considered this. No. I'm grateful actually. If they'd supported me from the beginning, I might have sought their validation instead of focusing purely on the work. Their dismissal freed me to build something without needing their approval. That's a remarkably mature perspective. It's an honest one. After the Fortune team left, I stayed late in the lab, reviewing data from our latest trial results. My phone buzzed around 8 p.m. A text from Sophia. Baby shower was amazing. Met so many important people. My boss's boss told me I'm on the fast track to VP. This baby is already bringing me luck. Then a photo. Sophia surrounded by executive-looking women, all holding champagne glasses, all looking successful and polished. Another text. Wish you could have been here, but you understand. Maybe when you're more established in your career we can include you in these things. I stared at that message for a long time. When you're more established in your career. From my sister who made $340,000 a year to me, who'd built a company worth $890 million. I set the phone down and returned to my data. Sunday was quiet. I spent it reading research papers and preparing for Monday's board meeting. My phone remained silent. My family had learned not to bother me on Sundays when I was working retail inventory. Monday morning arrived clear and cold. The Fortune magazine issue was set to go live online at 6 a.m., with print copies hitting newsstands by 8 a.m. I got to the lab at 5:30 a.m. David was already there, laptop open, refreshing the Fortune website. "You're nervous," I observed. "One of us should be. You're about to become very public, Mira. I've published 17 peer-reviewed papers. I've presented at conferences. I'm already public in my field. This is different. This is Fortune magazine. This is mainstream recognition." At exactly 6 a.m. the website refreshed. There I was on the digital cover, standing in my lab coat in front of the synthesis arrays, the headline reading, "Tech Innovator of the Year. How Dr. Mira Chen is Revolutionizing Drug Delivery." David let out a low whistle. "That's a hell of a cover." My phone started buzzing immediately. Colleagues, investors, researchers I'd collaborated with, all sending congratulations. Then at 6:47 a.m., a different kind of message. A text from my college roommate Jessica. "Mira, you're on the cover of Fortune magazine. Does your family know?" I replied, "They will soon. This is going to be insane. Call me when the chaos starts." The chaos started at 7:23 a.m. A call from Mom. I declined it. Immediately followed by a call from Dad. Declined. Then Sophia. Declined. The voicemails started accumulating. "Mom, Mira honey, someone at my book club just showed me something on their phone and I think there's been a mistake. Fortune magazine has a picture of someone who looks like you. Call me immediately." "Dad, Mira, I'm looking at Fortune magazine's website and I'm very confused. There's an article about a Dr. Mira Chen at some biotech company. Is this you? This can't be you. Call me." "Sophia, what the FUV, Mira? I'm at work and my boss just asked me if I'm related to the Mira Chen on the Fortune magazine cover." I had to pretend I knew what she was talking about. "Call me right now." I silenced my phone and returned to work. At 8:30 a.m., David knocked on my door. "Mira, your sister is in the lobby. She says she's not leaving until she talks to you. Send her up." Sophia burst into my office 3 minutes later, still in her work clothes, mascara slightly smudged like she'd been crying. She stopped in the doorway, staring at the space, the expensive furniture, the view of the Philadelphia skyline, the framed patents on the wall. "What is this?" she asked, her voice strained. "My office." "Your office? Your office at, what? This biotech company? Biosynth Solutions." She was holding her phone, the Fortune cover visible on the screen. "This is you. You're really the tech innovator of the year." "Yes. But you work at Sephora. You work retail at the mall." "I quit Sephora 7 years ago, Sophia. I took that job for 8 weeks while waiting for funding. I've been running this company since I was 24. She sank into the chair across from my desk. 7 years. You've been lying to us for 7 years. "I never lied. You assumed and I stopped correcting you." "That's the same thing." "Is it? Because I remember trying to explain my work at family dinners. I remember Dad calling it a pipe dream. I remember you rolling your eyes and saying I was playing scientist. I remember Mom being relieved when I mentioned working at Sephora because it meant I was finally being realistic." Sophia's face flushed. "We were trying to protect you. Those startups fail all the time. This one didn't. Obviously." She gestured at the office. "Clearly you're successful. But Mira, why didn't you tell us? Why let us think you were working retail? Because you were happier thinking that. You liked Mira the retail worker better than Mira the scientist. She was less threatening, less complicated, less competitive with your success." "That's not true. Isn't it? When I worked retail you finally approved of me. You stopped making comments about me being pretentious. You stopped complaining that I used too many big words. For the first time in my life, I was the daughter who didn't make you uncomfortable." Sophia looked like I'd slapped her. "So you just let us believe a lie to prove some kind of point?" "I let you believe what made you comfortable. And in the process I learned who you really were." "What does that mean?" "It means I spent 7 years watching you build your identity around being the successful sister. The one who did everything right. The one who made Mom and Dad proud. And you needed me to be the unsuccessful sister for that narrative to work." "That's not, I never." She couldn't finish the sentence. "Saturday," I said quietly. "Your baby shower. You uninvited me because my retail job would humiliate you in front of executives." Her face went pale. "While you were at that shower celebrating with your C-suite guests, Fortune magazine was here photographing me for their innovator cover. Your boss was there, wasn't she?" "At the shower." Sophia nodded mutely. So this morning when the magazine dropped, she saw the cover. She realized her senior director's sister, the one you were too embarrassed to invite, is the tech innovator of the year. The founder and CEO of a company worth nearly $1 billion. How did that conversation go? Tears were running down Sophia's face now. She asked if I was related to you. I said yes. She asked why I'd never mentioned you. I said I didn't realize what you were doing. She looked at me like I was an idiot. You're not an idiot, Sophia. You just believed what you wanted to believe. Everyone at the shower saw it. Everyone I work with. My entire network. Her voice broke. They all think I'm either a liar or so self-absorbed I didn't know my own sister founded a major biotech company. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate? Mira, this is humiliating. I've spent years building my professional reputation, and now everyone thinks I'm either clueless or deliberately dismissive of my own sister's success. Again, that's unfortunate. But Sophia, how do you think I felt? Listening to you tell people I worked retail? Hearing you say I was still figuring things out when I was raising tens of millions in funding? Being uninvited from your baby shower because I'd embarrass you? She had no answer. My phone, still face down on my desk, was vibrating constantly. David knocked again. Mira, CNN is calling. Bloomberg wants an interview. And your parents are also in the lobby now. I looked at Sophia. Do you want to be here for this conversation? I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what to do. Then maybe sit there quietly and listen. David showed my parents in. They looked shell-shocked, older somehow. Mom spoke first. Mira, we don't understand. How is any of this possible? You work at the mall. I haven't worked at the mall in 7 years, Mom. But you said. I said I was working. You assumed that meant retail. I stopped correcting you after you made it clear you preferred that version of me. Dad was looking around the office, taking in the details. This is really yours? This company? These patents? Yes. You're really worth. He looked at his phone where he'd clearly pulled up the Fortune article. It says here your company is valued at $890 million. That was our last funding round. We're probably worth more now. Mom sank into the other chair. I don't understand how we didn't know. You didn't want to know. When I tried to explain my research, you told me I was being pretentious. When I started the company, Dad called it a pipe dream. When I mentioned Sephora, you were relieved. It gave you a simple story you could understand and control. But that's because we cared about you. Mom's voice rose. We didn't want you to be disappointed when your startup failed. It didn't fail, Mom. It succeeded beyond anything I'd imagined. I've created technology that could save thousands of lives. I've employed nearly 70 people. I've built something meaningful. But you'll never know how that felt because you weren't interested in the journey. Dad's face was gray. The baby shower. Sophia said she didn't invite you because my retail job would be humiliating in front of executives. I finished. Yes. While Sophia was at that shower, I was here being photographed for Fortune magazine. The room fell silent. Sophia spoke quietly. They want to know why I didn't tell anyone about you. My boss, my colleagues, everyone at the shower. They all saw the cover this morning and they're asking why I never mentioned my sister founded a major biotech company. What did you tell them? That I didn't know how successful you were. She looked up at me. But that's not really true, is it? I didn't know because I never asked. Because I was comfortable thinking you worked retail. Because it made me feel better about my own success. Yes. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Mom was crying now. Mira, sweetheart, we're so sorry. We had no idea. You had no idea because you never asked. In 7 years, none of you asked me a single substantive question about my work. You asked if I was still doing the retail thing, or if I'd thought about getting a real job. You never asked what company I worked for, what I actually did all day, why I was always busy. You just assumed I was failing, and that assumption was enough. What do we do now? Dad asked helplessly. How do we fix this? I don't know if you can. Not immediately. This isn't something you fix with an apology. But we are sorry, Mom insisted. We're so sorry. I know. But sorry doesn't change the fact that you were more comfortable with Mira the retail worker than Mira the scientist. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you built your entire family narrative around Sophia being successful and me being, what? The disappointing daughter? The one who never lived up to her potential. We never said that, Dad protested. You didn't have to. Every time you introduced Sophia and talked about her career, then introduced me and quickly changed the subject. That said it. Every time you apologized to your friends about my retail phase. That said it. Every time you expressed relief that I was doing honest work, instead of chasing pretentious dreams. That said it. Sophia was sobbing now. I built my whole identity around being the successful one. The daughter who did everything right. And I needed you to be the unsuccessful one for that to work. I know. How were you okay with that? How did you just let us believe it? Because it freed me to build this without needing your validation. If you'd supported me from the beginning, I might have spent energy seeking your approval instead of focusing purely on the work. Your dismissal was actually a gift. You just didn't mean it to be. My phone was still vibrating. David knocked again, looking apologetic. Mira, I'm sorry, but Fortune is holding for a phone interview, and the Wall Street Journal wants to schedule something this week. Tell them I'll call back in an hour. After David left, I looked at my family. They looked broken, confused, like their entire worldview had shattered. I have work to do, I said quietly. Media calls, board meetings, research deadlines. My life hasn't changed just because you finally know about it. Can we talk later? Mom asked desperately. Can we try to understand what you've built? Maybe. But understand something first. I didn't build this for you. I didn't build it to prove you wrong. I built it because the science matters. Because people are suffering from diseases we can't effectively treat, and I thought I could help. Your approval or understanding is irrelevant to that mission. It matters to us, Dad said. Does it? Or are you just embarrassed that you dismissed a tech innovator of the year as a retail worker? He flinched. That's what I thought. I stood. I'll call you when I'm ready. Right now, I have a company to run. They left slowly, reluctantly. Sophia paused at the door. Mira? For what it's worth, what you've built here. It's incredible. I read the whole Fortune article. The science, the impact, the way you've structured the company. It's better than anything I've ever done. It's different than what you've done. Not better. No, it's better. And I'm sorry I never saw it. After they left, I sat at my desk for a long moment watching the city through my window. My phone had 93 unread messages now. David knocked softly. How are you doing? I'm fine. That was intense. It was necessary. They're going to struggle with this. Yes. Are you going to forgive them? I thought about this carefully. Eventually, maybe. But David, they didn't just fail to notice my success. They actively preferred me unsuccessful. They were more comfortable with a lie that made them feel superior than a truth that challenged their assumptions. That's not something you forgive quickly. Fair point. He paused. CNN is really persistent. And Fortune wants you for a follow-up feature about the response to the cover. Of course they do. The human interest angle is performing well. The scientist who let her family think she worked retail while building a biotech empire? Yeah, people are eating that up. Twitter's going crazy. There are already memes. Memes. He showed me his phone. Someone had created a side-by-side image. My sister's LinkedIn post from Saturday about her amazing baby shower with executive guests, next to my Fortune magazine cover with the caption, POV. You uninvited your sister from your party because she works retail. It had 47,000 likes. Oh, I said. It gets better. Someone found your sister's LinkedIn and noticed she never mentioned having a sister. The comments are pointed. I took his phone and scrolled through. Comments like, imagine being too embarrassed by your sister's retail job, to mention she founded a company worth $890 million. This woman really uninvited her sister from a baby shower the same day her sister was being photographed for Fortune magazine. The second-hand embarrassment I'm feeling for this entire family. I handed the phone back. That's unfortunate for Sophia. You're really not bothered by any of this? By strangers on Twitter? No. By my family's assumption? I was bothered 7 years ago. Now I'm just observing the natural consequences. Over the next week, the story exploded beyond anything I'd anticipated. The Fortune cover went viral. News outlets picked up the story. Business podcasts wanted interviews. My inbox was flooded with speaking requests. And my family was struggling. Sophia took a leave of absence from work after multiple colleagues made pointed comments about her not knowing her own sister's success. Mom stopped going to her book club after someone asked why she'd never mentioned her daughter was a tech innovator. Dad's law partners kept congratulating him on my success in a way that highlighted how little he'd known about it. They were experiencing the consequences of their assumptions, and it was devastating them. 2 weeks after the Fortune cover dropped, Sophia called. "Mira, can we meet? Please? I need to talk to you." We met at a coffee shop near my lab. Sophia looked exhausted, her usual polish gone. "I took a leave of absence," she said immediately. "I couldn't handle everyone's questions about why I never mentioned you. Why I seemed to dismiss my own sister. My boss suggested I take time to get perspective. I'm sorry that's been difficult." "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't be polite. Be honest. You let this happen. You knew it would explode like this. I knew the truth would eventually come out. I didn't control the timing or the public reaction. But you didn't stop it either. You could have told us privately before the Fortune piece. You could have given us a heads up. Instead, you let us find out with the rest of the world. Would you have believed me? If I'd called 2 weeks ago and said, 'By the way, I'm about to be on the cover of Fortune magazine for founding a biotech company,' would you have taken that seriously? Or would you have thought I was delusional?" She had no answer. "Sophia, you uninvited me from your baby shower because my retail job would embarrass you. That happened. I can't change that. The fact that it turned out I don't work retail, that I'm actually more successful than anyone at that shower, that's just irony. Painful irony, but I didn't create it. Everyone thinks I'm a terrible person. Are you? I don't think you're terrible. I think you were so invested in being the successful sister that you couldn't see me clearly. That's not terrible. That's just human. But you're not angry? I was angry 7 years ago. Then I was disappointed. Then I just let it go. I focused on my work instead of trying to make you see me differently. I'm having a baby in 2 months, Sophia said quietly. And I keep thinking about what kind of example I'm setting. What kind of values I'm teaching. And I don't like what I see. Then change. How? By recognizing that success isn't a competition. By understanding that different paths have different values. By not measuring everyone against your own achievements. She nodded slowly. I've been thinking about that baby shower. About who I invited, who I excluded, why. And I realized it wasn't really about career success. It was about control. I wanted to control the narrative, control how people saw me and my family. You didn't fit the narrative I wanted, so I excluded you. Yes. That's awful. Yes. I'm so sorry, Mira. Not just for the shower, but for 7 years of dismissing you. 7 years of thinking my path was the only path that mattered. I appreciate that. Can we start over? Can I learn about what you actually do? I thought about this. We can try. But Sophia, you need to understand, I don't need you to validate my work now. I needed you to respect me then. The fact that you're interested now that you know I'm successful, that's still conditional respect. That's still transactional. Then what do you need? I need you to understand that you're not the only definition of success. I need you to recognize that you actively dismissed me to feel better about yourself. And I need you to sit with that discomfort before we move forward. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I can do that. Good. Because I'm going to have a niece or nephew in 2 months, and I'd like to be part of their life. But not as Aunt Mira who works retail. As Aunt Mira who's actually a scientist and entrepreneur. I'd like that too. 3 months later, Sophia had her baby, a girl named Maya. I visited them in the hospital, and for the first time my family asked real questions about my work. So when you say synthetic proteins, Dad began carefully, what does that actually mean? I explained. Really explained. The science, the applications, the potential impact. They listened, really listened for the first time. Why didn't you tell us it was this important? Mom asked. I tried to. You weren't ready to hear it. We're ready now. Are you? Or are you just embarrassed that you dismissed it? The question hung in the air. Finally, Dad spoke, both honestly. We're embarrassed we were so wrong. And we're ready to actually understand what you've built. Then come visit the lab. Let me show you. They did. 2 weeks later, my entire family toured Biosynth Solutions. I showed them the synthesis arrays, the clean rooms, the research facilities. I introduced them to my team. I explained our drug candidates and their potential impact. Mom cried when she saw the lab. All this time you were doing this. You were building this. And we thought. You thought I was working at a mall. I know. Why didn't you just tell us? Because you needed to want to know. And for 7 years you didn't. At the end of the tour, Sophia pulled me aside. Mira, I want to say something. What you've built here, it's not just impressive. It matters. What I do at the bank, it's fine. It's lucrative. But it doesn't matter like this matters. Different work has different value. No. Let me finish. You were right. I built my identity around being the successful sister because I measured success by salary and title and prestige. But standing in your lab, seeing your team working on drugs that could save lives, her voice broke. I've been successful by one definition. But you've been successful by the definition that actually matters. Sophia. I'm going to do better. With Maya, with my career, with you. I'm going to teach my daughter that success is about impact, not just income. And I'm going to make sure she knows her Aunt Mira is brilliant, and not just in the ways that show up on a resume. I'd like that. 6 months after the Fortune cover, I gave a keynote address at the National Biotech Conference. My family attended, all of them including baby Maya. I spoke about the importance of pursuing science that matters, even when others don't understand it. About building something meaningful rather than something impressive. About the freedom that comes from not needing external validation. After my speech, a young woman approached me. Dr. Chen, I'm a PhD student and my family doesn't understand my research. They keep asking when I'm going to get a real job. What you said about not needing their validation, how did you do that? I thought carefully. I didn't do it perfectly. There were days when their dismissal hurt. But I realized that seeking their approval would mean shaping my work to fit their understanding. And the work was too important for that. So I stopped explaining and started building. Eventually, the results spoke for themselves. And now they understand? They're trying to. But honestly, whether they understand or not is no longer the point. I built this because it needed to exist, not because I needed their approval. She nodded slowly. Thank you. That helps. After she left, Sophia approached with Maya. That was beautiful, Mira. And true. We didn't understand, did we? No. But you're trying now. Do you think you'll ever really forgive us? I looked at my sister, at my baby niece sleeping in her arms, at my parents watching from nearby. I think I already have, I said honestly. Not because you earned it, but because holding on to that resentment would take energy away from the work. And the work matters more. Even more than family? The work is family now. My team, my research partners, the patients who'll eventually benefit from our drugs. That's family too. You're my blood family and I love you. But I don't need you to complete me anymore. She nodded, understanding. You built something bigger than all of us. I built something that mattered. Whether you saw it or not didn't change that. We stood there together watching the conference attendees network and discuss breakthrough science. My family finally saw me, really saw me, for who I was. But the truth was I'd always been this person. The brilliant scientist, the innovative entrepreneur, the tech innovator of the year. They just preferred to see me as Mira who worked at the mall. And I'd let them because their limited vision had given me unlimited freedom. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's building something so meaningful that their opinion becomes irrelevant. And that's exactly what I'd done.